So this is the test flight of the Centurion. I've just made a bunch of design changes, so we'll be testing out a few things that probably won't work. First thing you'll notice is that you're facing the wrong way. What happens is these command modules here tend to take over command, so you just have to find that docking ring and control from there. RTZ and launch. Okay, so it flies like a regular rocket. I've got it so that it kind of noses up a little bit, and I use that to create my gravity turn. You'll end up upside down when you're in orbit, but that's fine. What I just do is face prograde, and it should auto gravity turn. This is going to take a while. I'm just going to let it sit for about, I don't know, the 5 minutes or however long it takes to get into space. And then I did stage it, and we're going up a little higher than I like to, so we're above 70. I will add my orbital insertion burn. When you're flying this, use your auto maneuver nodes as much as possible. I find it makes it a lot easier. We've got a 1 minute burn time. That's not correct. So what I'm going to do is start the burn right away because we're going to be jettisoning these rockets launchers and being left with only our main engines, and it's actually a little underpowered. I did that on purpose because this is the only time you'll really need that high acceleration. All of the other planets that you land on are basically moons, and you don't need as much acceleration. So there you go. Stage the last boosters, and we're into orbit. These air brakes are used for what do you call that? Aero braking and on takeoff. So what I do is after takeoff, I deactivate all of them. Yeah, so they're basically, when you're in space, you don't use them, and I just don't like them moving around. It's I don't know if it throws off the center of mass. Probably not on a ship this big. Anyway, I will pause the video and get back once I'm in orbit. Okay, so here we are at our orbital insertion burn, moving backwards and getting ready to hit the burn. Like I said, I made some changes to the design on this, and one of them was adding a cupola on top. Tends to make it nose up a bit, but if you use these maneuver nodes, it actually works quite well. It stays on course. So a little high. I wanted it a little lower than that, so I'll just go retrograde and do another little burn, get myself into a nice circular orbit. But basically, I mean, we should be ready to do the scan. And in a few seconds here, we should have our scan complete of the moon. So I'll do some time acceleration and get back when I'm ready to do my deorbit burn. Okay, so I've set up my deorbit burn. It's pretty cratered over there. I'm pretty sure I can miss those. So what I'm going to do is I need to now switch between flight mode and landing mode. So obviously the first thing I need to do is put down my landing gear. Okay, so that aside, what you'll need to do is you're in flight mode, you need to control from this ring. In landing mode, you need to control from one of the two docking ports that are facing upwards, or actually any controlling surface that's facing the top of the craft. So you could even do it from the cupola. So we can do that. So just control from here. And then what you want to do is get yourself into the proper orientation. We've still got the main engines activated. To deactivate those, you just hit the brakes and it'll toggle those engines. To activate the landing engines, what you need to do is hit the abort key, and that will toggle those ones as well. Are we getting close? Not really. We've got time. The other thing I like to do, and this is actually not really necessary, but it helps for navigation, is to point your nose straight up in the air. And what's going on here? The other hotkey that I've got set up is the lights. That will toggle your solar panels. The reason why I don't have actual hotkeys is because my VAB doesn't support hotkeys. It's only a level 2. And I kind of like this system. It's a standard, standard system of how all of my ships work. So what I do, this is the 3-point landing system. I get 3 engines. It's a 3-point landing system. 3 landing engines. 2 are very close to the center of mass, and they will basically provide most of the thrust for your landing. The other one is a control engine, and how I control it is through the thrust limiter. So what I do is, to start out, I thrust it a little bit, and then it's nosing up. So I need to drop that down. So I play around with it until I get it stable. And this is kind of the hard part of it. This is a large ship, and I've also got the auto prograde or maneuver node enabled, so that kind of messes with it. But basically, the deorbit burn checks out where you're at as far as your thrust limiter, and it looks like that's pretty close, maybe a little more. Tend to be nosing down a little bit. So, and how you can check on that, it's not really a good position there, but what'll happen is your RCS thrusters will start thrusting in one direction or another. Whichever direction they're thrusting, if it's up, then you need to give it a little more. If it's down, then a little less. And I think this one is tending to be thrusting down, so I think we might be a little bit too high. So I'm just going to pop it down. So now, see where we are. Oh, we're over. So what I'll do then is I'll just slowly creep up on the thrust. Make sure I don't lose control. Yeah, nosing up a bit. So I'm going to drop it down. So it's going to be, looks like it's right around 50 is the sweet spot. So leave yourself time. I think that was it for the maneuver. Yeah. Maybe I'll try dropping it down right there. That'll get us pretty much on the equator. Okay, so the terrain ahead is looking pretty rough. I'm going to try to avoid some of this, so I'm going to start my burn a little early. And I should have it dialed in, so I shouldn't need to touch it. But it's always good to keep an eye on it. Putting it on the maneuver node is a good idea as well. Another thing I like to do is actually just set it on the retrograde marker, and that way you can use your maneuver node as reference. But in fact, the retrograde marker is more stable, because once you hit your node, the maneuver node tends to mess you up. So it looks like we've got good control. You can see the thrusters are thrust in there. That means I got to bump it up just a little bit. So that's how you that's your indicator of how to control this thing. So we're down under 300 meters per second. I'm shooting for this area. But basically, just keeping an eye, you can see, again, my RCS thrusters are going again, so I need to bump that up a little bit just to stop those. That's all you got to do. It's really easy. Once you get used to it, it's actually quite easy to land this thing. It's a behemoth, and it's got a total of 32,000 fuel, 39,000 oxidizer. That should get you anywhere, pretty much. Actually, everywhere. Because you have the ability to refuel on moons. It's just a matter of figuring out the navigation, and you will be able to fly to pretty much every body except for Kerbal, Eve, and Jewel. So we're at 14,000 and still under 100 meters per second. 4,000 fuel should be a lot to get us down to the surface. It's just a matter of avoiding some of these crater rims. Actually, you could land in the middle. So pick it up at around, I don't know, 5,000 or 7,000 meters. Okay, so here we are, 188 meters a second. Really need to get that down. So just bump that up a bit. You can see the RCS. Oh, no, that's too much. So we're heading down towards 100 meters per second, almost at full throttle. Okay, I think we're level. From here on in, I'm just gonna keep it around 5 meters a second, or less, preferably. So we're gonna just come down. There's the landing lights. You actually don't even see that light until you get close to the ground. So that's why I leave it on all the time. It looks like we're hitting the edge of a crater. So it's the moon. They're everywhere. I'm starting to get too slow here. Okay. Whoa, pretty uneven ground. Okay, exit out. Whoa. Well, there you go. Kind of missed the flat ground by about, I don't know, 50 meters or something, but whatever, we're down. So there is a rover inside here that you can pop out and drive around the surface. That's kind of one of the features. The other feature is you can see it's kind of asymmetric. I wanted to get a lab and a cupola on here. We'll decouple that and it'll fall down onto the surface. Or get hung up in there. This is one of the features that I really like of this particular, well, all my ships that are designed this way have the ability to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the abort key to shut down my landing engines and take my brakes off. And I might actually start rolling here on my own because I'm on a slant. But basically you can, you know, do this. Hit your engines and drive around the surface with this puppy. It's a big lug. I would recommend not doing this while it's fully fueled. So basically, if you're going to go anywhere, do it before you fuel your ship, because fully fueled, this thing, it would be a beast to drive around. I had it on a previous excursion test flight. I had it up to, I think it was 40 meters per second. Are we flying? Yeah. You tend to get air, well, or lack of air, and that happens quite a bit on the moon because, well, it's pretty rough. But, I mean, you can get places. So we're going 50 now. Let's see. 60. Oh, there you go. Got nowhere fast. So that's why I did the quick save, because, you know, I knew that was going to happen. I wouldn't recommend driving at anything faster than 20 meters a second. You can't go faster than that with a rover anyway. So there you go. Okay, so now we'll need power because we're gonna refuel this puppy and get back into orbit. Kind of on a little bit of an incline, but it actually shouldn't matter. The landing engines will allow you to pop straight up, and then the main engines will engage and shoot you forward, and then it's just a matter of getting back into orbit. So it's pretty basic to fly. Once you get used to it, it's not much more complex than doing a regular landing on the moon. So I'm going to just start these up and refuel the ship, and then I'll walk you through takeoff and reorbit. So we're all fully fueled. I'm just going to shut that down because, that's it. Okay, so I'll retract those solar panels. We want to make sure that all of this is stopped, and we really don't need this fuel cell either. So make sure everything's shut down, everything's retracted, and you're all good to go. And then do a quick save, because taking off is actually probably at least as difficult as landing. So what we're going to do is start with our landing engines. We're going to get some altitude, and then we're going to hit the brakes to toggle our main engines on. And we should. I'm going to bump this up because I'd like to nose up a little bit. We're kind of facing nose down, but you do want to nose up. And as soon as you're at about 45 degrees, hit the main engines, shut off the landing engines, and you're good to go. It's really basic. The other thing you'll need to do is change your controller to this one. And actually, I could do that right now. So we'll just control from there. You can see where we're at. We're kind of at an angle, so we'll probably start veering off. Okay, so take off. Getting ready, because I may have to control this a little bit. You can see we're nosing up. Nosing up. We want to get above the horizon and stay level. So I'm going to drop that down a bit. Level out. And I could actually hit my main engines now. And that will start us, towards there. You can see our prograde vector is actually heading where we want to go. Actually, no, it's not. We're heading south, aren't we? Okay, we'll need to turn this puppy around, but that's okay. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, and you can actually, at this point, shut off the landing engines. Make sure you're heading in the right direction. So yeah, I'm just gonna full throttle here. She does tend to nose up a bit, just because of that cupola. If you like the cupola, you'll have to deal with the nosing up. So I'm just going to overcompensate for our direction. What kind of, how are we? 10 kilometers. Okay, so once you're in the air, I mean, it flies quite nicely. It actually lands quite nicely. Because it's a large ship, things happen more slowly, but you have to be aware that things will, like in stabilizing the ship, it's not going to happen right away. It's going to take some time to actually do it. And we're at 22 now. That's a good height. So we're heading generally in the right direction, and so I'll just do my orbital insertion burn, correct our alignment here, and it should be no problem getting this thing back into orbit. We should have over 20,000 fuel in lunar orbit. That'll get us to Minmus, and Minmus is where I like to fly to the rest of the planets from. So we're getting close to our maneuver node. 5, 4, 3, go. So there you go. Hit the maneuver node. She's flying back in orbit, fully fueled, 26,000 fuel. That'll get us places. We've even got some extra ore, so you know we could do some conversion into fuel or RCS. I mean, 1,400 RCS is way more than enough. The other feature, I've got on the back here a little RCS tug, and what that can do is when you have your little lander here come back, you use the RCS tug. It's got a grappling hook on there, and you just use that to get it back in the bay. The other thing you can do is if you want to capture an asteroid, just dock your RCS tug here, use the grappling hook to grapple it, and use these two drills to drill in and do a refueling. If you want to move the asteroid around, it's the best thing to do is to put it on the front, and then so you've got this asteroid attached to the front of the ship, and you can fly it around all over the place a little easier. And again, that's the RCS tug will couple to that, and then the grappling hook will grab whatever it is you need. So that's the features of this particular craft. This is one of the larger ones. I would recommend starting on a smaller one. I've got some starter craft that I'll be releasing before this one. I'd recommend getting used to landing with those craft, and then this thing would be a no-brainer. So we're getting the... So there we go. I think we're good. 21 by 33, that's a good orbit. Okay, so yeah, there you have it. Scanned the moon, grabbed some resources, sent out my rover, made a few explosions. Like I said, that rover, the little rover in the bay there, can deorbit, land on a planet, and come back. That's what it's for. It's to get into places that would be too tough to get this big beast in. Some of the contracts that I've had out on BOP and POL are on the side of a cliff, and the only way to get to it is a little rover like this. So if you want to do contracts on the way, what I like to do is grab some contracts for a planet, fly out there, do them, and then you got your craft available for the next contract. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So this is a great ship, one of my favorites.